Hey squad, good evening. It's Suzette Speaks here for another edition of Let's Talk Justice. I hope you guys are doing well, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you are a new subscriber or just joining the channel, I want to welcome you to the Let's Talk Justice community. I host two separate types of shows on this channel. I host Suzette Speaks show streams, which are dedicated to empowerment, upliftment, and motivation and inspiration. And I also host Let's Talk Justice shows, which is one that I will be doing like right now. So Let's Talk Justice is more focused on law, politics, current events, and ways I can help break it down for the public. So if you are very sensitive, please know that this show, we're going to be discussing school shootings because there have been quite a few this week, and we're not even close to the end of the week. And I want to discuss some of the statistics around what is happening across our country and if we're being fully informed about the number of school shootings that have occurred in 2021. So, again, if you're sensitive to talking about gun violence, I want to advise you that we will get into some of the latest when it comes to school shootings across our country. Again, welcome to the community if you are brand new, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Again, I have two sets of shows, so look for Let's Talk Justice title when it comes to politics and current events, and of course, legal shows. I am an attorney here in South Florida. I practice personal injury, which means I help people who are experience wrongful death, are involved in medical malpractice cases, sometimes as simple as car accidents. Anytime someone is hurt, I can help with those issues. However, in this stream, I will not be giving any legal advice. If you need legal advice, you are advised to please contact attorneys directly, someone specific, so that they can address your needs and properly evaluate your case. No legal information, or excuse me, for this stream is for informational purposes only. No legal advice. Only information will be rendered today. So I want to welcome you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, this is Let's Talk Justice. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But I was going through some of the news today, and for me, it was quite startling to realize that right now, the first week of October, we're only, 2 days in. And since the beginning of October, we've already had 5 school shootings across the United States. And for me, that's, quite striking. And it kind of blew my mind watching the latest one, which was today in Texas, Arlington, Texas, where a young man, a student, 18, injured 2 at his school after apparently a fight with another student, and a gun was drawn. And I think also a teacher was among those who were injured today. But I thought to myself, wow, this is kind of, we knew it was an epidemic. We knew since Sandy Hook in 2012, there was an issue with how not only, students and children had, or he in that case was a little bit different, but how young people got access to guns, and then our national response to what was happening after, extreme incidences of gun violence. So I wanted to talk to you and just find out what your opinions are on what's happening, why it's happening, and if we can do anything to stem it, and have we been getting the full picture. Now, one of the first articles that I saw was that there have been so many incidents of gun violence that have been under or unreported, just because in 21 there have been so many other tragedies that have taken the front page news, so to speak. So with the pandemic happening and all that's going on with, between back and forth with the economic situation across the world, mask mandates, vaccines, et cetera, there have been less and less front page space for gun violence stories, but they're still very much occurring. And I was looking up some of the latest statistics according to Sandy Hook Promise, having referenced that tragedy that happened back in 2012. According to Sandy Hook Promise, 1 out of 10 gun deaths in the United States is someone under 19 years of age. So for every 10 people that are injured by a gun, 1 of those 10 are someone under the age of 19. Now, when I was listening to that or reading that type of statistics, I was like, wow, if there was any other medical or, what should I say, preventable issue that was affecting that many people at that rate, I think we would, as a country, be more serious about trying to address it. But unfortunately, we haven't. And I was also looking at what was published with Sandy Hook. And let me know you're watching if you want to leave a comment, if you even want to come up to share. I was also reading that gun violence is the leading cause of death for people in the United States under 19 years old. The leading cause of death. You are 3 times more likely to be killed by a gun than to drown if you're a young person. And I think that is something that is very, strangely underreported and not necessarily something that we are keeping to the fore. According to Sandy Hook Promise, 8 young people are not only shot but die of gun violence each day. 32 are shot. So at least 32 young people, children, are shot each and every day in the United States, across our country. And 8 pass away from gun violence. So as I was looking at some of these numbers, I kept thinking, whoa, what are we doing wrong? What is happening? And again, if you want to comment, please let me know what your thoughts are on this, because I was trying to come up with a theory as to why haven't we paid more attention to what's going on in our schools, and how can we better prevent it? And what really triggered me to come on and do this stream, if I'm open and honest with you, is that when I was watching the news about today's 5th shooting for the week, I saw a young man who was being interviewed by Marcus Moore. He's a reporter for ABC News. And he was asking this young man, who happens to also be African American, just as Marcus is, how did he feel? Was he afraid that there was a shooter in his school? He was like, no, we're used to it. We do drills all the time. And I was like, man, I'm so grateful that I was allowed to, have some innocence anyway. In my childhood, we didn't have active shooter drills during my days. But the fact that he was so calm, and he was like, yes, I heard the pow, pow, pow. And then we knew it was real because, they would have said drill, get ready for the drill. But they didn't say drill. They said active shooter. Or they said, it was just so matter of fact for him to recount how he felt and what they did, and how the teachers are responsible for, barricading doors and getting desks and bookshelves and heavy objects in front of doors, turning off lights, hiding in closets. This has become our new norm, guys. And it's quite frightening. It's quite challenging for not only parents, school administrators, and really the government. So I was doing a little bit more research and saw that there were not accurate statistics kept by our federal government for the amount of shootings happening in schools. And it made me think, why? Why would we not want to be tracking how many school shootings there have been? So as I was doing my research and trying to figure out how big of a problem it is, and thanks for dropping a comment. Hey, Angela, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, our children, this is so sad that our children feel like this is a new norm. This is very unspeakable in terms of what we now consider normal. I was also watching a little bit earlier some of the Nikolas Cruz case. And if you guys don't remember that name, that's the young man that shot up the school in Parkland, Florida, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, February 14th, I wanted to say. February 14th, 2018. And now he's on trial, not for that main incident, but for another incident that occurred while he was in jail, while he has been in custody, I should say, awaiting trial for the massacre, the school shooting that he allegedly participated in and was the main perpetrator of. He now, I think in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, or actually, yeah, it was in the same year, 6 months later, he attacked a guard while he was in jail. So now he's on trial for that assault case. And not to digress too much, if you watch some of what is being reported about Nikolas Cruz, in the courtroom today, the judge went into great detail about the defense's argument, or the defense's motion, to allow Nikolas Cruz, now 23, remember he was 17, I believe, when he committed that atrocity. Nikolas Cruz, his lead attorney, was asking the judge for permission to allow Nikolas Cruz to use colored pencils and paper during his jury selection and during his trial, because apparently, according to his attorney, he becomes very upset while, jury selection is where they are in that case, is taking place. Now, mind you, this gentleman is now accused of, one of the most horrific mass school shootings in our nation's history. And his lawyers, and again, tactics, some would say, are at play here. And then others will say, no, he is in emotional distress. Apparently, what happened was when one of the jury pools that came in for selection, a woman who saw at the sight of Nikolas Cruz, who was one of the prospective jurors, saw him and began to cry. And then Nikolas Cruz, underneath his mask, everyone in the courtrooms now are masked up because of the pandemic, also began to cry and shed tears, and he was very upset. And not to make light of it, it was argued that he should be given crayons and pencils to color and draw so he can remain emotionally stable during jury selection. And of course, the prosecutors in that case were like, no, Your Honor, we object. Why? Because they think that the defense is trying to make Mr. Cruz seem more, infantile and mentally, slower or challenged, and may garner some sympathy from the jurors, the prospective jurors in the process. So apparently the last few days, he's had this kind of emotional response where he starts crying when twice someone from the jury pool came in, saw him, and started crying, and then he became upset as well. So the judge, I think, just to put a bow on that, the judge ruled that he could not have colored pencils because of security reasons, and she did allow, I think it was like a jail issued pen that deputies would give him, and a piece of paper, he could have that. But these are the things that we're talking about for someone who, I can't even say ruined the lives, because it's like allegedly still he has not been convicted, but for someone to have had the impact that he's had on the lives of thousands of people having, PTSD, and will never, ever, ever have, the same sense of normalcy than before that day, that fateful day at Parkland. This is where we are in terms of him being, held accountable. So we're talking a little bit about gun violence, and we're talking a little bit about why we haven't heard in the national news and in maybe even locally where you live about gun violence as much, because so many other things are absorbing the news cycle. So many other parts of what we are forced to listen to. There are pandemics happening, and I don't mean to laugh, but I mean more so to say there is a crowded front page when it comes to things that matter and things that would reach national news coverage. So since it's not getting national news coverage, I really wanted it to, be something that I talk about here. And hopefully, just to give you a couple more crazy statistics that I saw, according to one of the local and the NBC affiliates close to I think it's Roanoke, Virginia. They had calculated 16 school shootings as of September. Now, mind you, it's October and we've already had 5 in the first week. But according to some of their reportings, just so you have an idea of what year to year the difference is, there were in 2020, during full-fledged pandemic, there was a huge decrease in the amount of school shootings. There was about 10. So to give a comparison, in 2019, it was 25, and 2018 is 24. So here we are in 2021. We are already at about 22, first week of October. So we're getting very close to what we've seen in the last few years. On top of that, when we're looking to how reporting was done or was not done, there actually could have been a lot more as of recently. So we have to make sure, first and foremost, our federal government is tracking the amount of school shootings and accurately reporting when there are incidents of school shootings. I'll leave you with a couple more interesting reads, because I saw another great article that was from an advocacy group that said this year alone there have been 101 incidents, not necessarily shootings alone, but incidents of which people have been affected at school. Children have been affected at school by guns. So, no matter where you live across the country, no matter your economic status, this is definitely going to be something that we have to keep at the forefront, even with the pandemic, even with all the other very pressing stories that have been occurring around the country. There are so many people that are affected by gun violence. It's very scary to think about. And when we are looking for solutions, and if you guys want to drop any comments to let me know what you think the solution is. For example, do you think parents of young people who bring guns to school should be held liable, should be held accountable for that young person? We just had an incident here in South Florida with a 10-year-old bringing a gun to school. Who's responsible there? Do you treat the 10-year-old as a criminal? And many times they are often whisked away into juvenile court to handle, situation. Sometimes they're given mental health evaluations, of course, but they still may be charged with a crime. So there's so many parts of this story that makes me very just weary about how we are actually going to address it, when and how we are going to express, that we're tired of it. I don't know if the public is tired enough yet so that the government or like the leaders gets tired enough to pass some legislation. But it's very important to keep this at the fore. Hi, nice to see you. I see some of y'all chiming in. Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, this is not a very light topic. This is something that is more heavy, so I can understand whether you watch it when you can. But just to share a couple more facts when it comes to gun violence. According to Sandy Hook's promise, 4 out of 5 shootings, at least one person had knowledge. 4 out of 5, 80% of the time, at least one person had knowledge of the attack, but failed to report it. 68% of gun-related incidents occur with guns that were taken from home, a friend, or relative. So access to guns are not necessarily coming from illegally necessarily, but they're coming from home. About 2/3 of the time, they're coming from home, from people you know. So a lot of times, even in surveys, I found that there are parents that didn't think their child knew where they kept their guns. But guess what? Kids are very smart. They know most likely. So that's why you have to talk to them about it, because most likely they know you don't think they do, but they do. Kids are very inquisitive. So a study found that 77% of active shooters spent a week or longer planning their attack. That's according to Sandy Hook Promise. And nearly all mass attackers in 2018 made threatening or concerning communications, and more than 75% elicited concern from others prior to them carrying out attacks. That's something that's very important, because that usually indicates somebody knew something, a friend group, somebody within their circle actually had knowledge of it. So that's something that it can be very disturbing as well to think about, that many of us actually, hopefully within the populations at the school, etc., someone may know, and we need to teach our young folks to say something. Since that percentage is so high, the 70% of people who die by suicide tell someone their plans or give them some type of warning. All right. And yes, this is the statistic I was just referring to. 39% of parents believe their children don't know where their gun is stored. And an estimated 4.6 million American children live in a home where at least one gun is kept loaded and, key here, unlocked. 4.6 million children live in a home where a gun is kept loaded and unlocked. That's a serious number, y'all. That is a serious number. So we could definitely dig a little deeper into this topic. This was something, again, just because I watched so many shootings this week and broadcast after broadcast, I was like, how many people are we talking here? And this is a busy school shooting year, although, particularly this week, a lot of coverage has been given to them. But because of the pandemic and because of so many other things going on, a lot of coverage earlier in the year was not as sustained, or sometimes was underreported, kind of quickly flew through the headlines. So let's be mindful that we're still dealing with a gun violence and a school shooting pandemic. And let's think about ways in which we can resolve them. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. Hit that subscribe button, please. Hit that subscribe button. It's been Suzette Speaks here, talking a little bit about school shootings, and we'll do some follow-up. Again, hit that subscribe button if you're brand new. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad you found me, and I'll see you guys next time. All right? I appreciate you liking. Hit that like button, and let me know if there are other topics that you would like me to cover. You guys have a great evening. Appreciate you being here. Take care.